3 years ago, and I've been playing guitar 3.5 years ago. I don't mind because, it's so good when they stop.
You may be familiar with Allie Sherlock, the talented Irish singer with a captivating voice who gained fame for performing on the streets.
When it go wrong, I will never know.
However, her story is far more complex and challenging than most people realize. Allie has faced a range of struggles that many would find hard to imagine, especially given her age. Yet much of this remains unspoken. In this video, we'll explore the realities of Allie Sherlock's life, her rise to fame, the harsh realities of the music industry, and the personal battles she's fought just to continue pursuing her passion. This is a story that goes beyond the surface, revealing a journey filled with unexpected hardships. Allie Sherlock's childhood. If you've ever been scrolling through YouTube and stumbled across a clip of a young girl singing a song so beautifully it gives you chills, chances are you've just been introduced to Allie Sherlock. She's the girl with the guitar, the voice that can make grown men cry, and the name that's been making waves in the music world for years now. But trust me, her journey hasn't been all roses, sunshine, and fairy tales. Allie has seen it all, from heartbreak to hustle. And although she's found her way to the top, becoming a global sensation, you'd never believe the extremely painful and heartbreaking things this girl has had to endure. But let's take it all the way back to where it all began. Allie was born on April 7, 2005, in Douglas, Cork, Ireland. And before we dive into the music, let's get one thing straight. She actually never planned on being famous. That's right. Unlike those kids who grow up dreaming of the spotlight, little Allie was just a regular Irish girl, going to school, playing with friends, and, of course, singing her heart out whenever she got the chance. But here's where things take a turn. Because at just 9 years old, she experienced something so devastating, it changed her life forever. Allie had to go through something no child ever wants to, and it's the sudden loss of a mother. Losing her mother, Michelle Sherlock, at such a young age was super heartbreaking for her, but as tragic as it was also the moment that music became her escape, her therapy, and eventually her future. But let's talk about how Allie's dad, Mark Sherlock, actually played a massive role in shaping her journey. After losing her mom, Allie started spending more time singing and playing music at home. Seeing how much she loved it, her dad did something that would change the course of her life. He got her a guitar, and thank God he did, because soon enough, that guitar became her best friend. As she got better, she started covering songs by Ed Sheeran, Adele, and Shawn Mendes, and it wasn't long before people started noticing that this girl wasn't just good, she actually had some extraordinary talent. Now, here's where things get tougher. You see, when Allie was still in primary school, her dad moved her to a new school that was closer to home. But instead of making friends and settling in, she ended up dealing with something no kid should have to go through. Allie was bullied. It wasn't actually physical bullying, it was constant negativity from her classmates. And sadly, it started taking a serious toll on her. Apparently, she became so stressed that it even started affecting her health, because her body was literally reacting to the pressure she was under. That's when her dad made a decision that would change everything. He pulled her out of school and decided to start homeschooling her. At first, it was just a way to give her a fresh start, but it turned out to be the perfect environment for her music to thrive. And it ended up being for the best, because without the stress of school, Allie had more time to focus on playing, practicing, and perfecting her craft. Before she knew it, she was ready to take her first big leap into the spotlight. Now, this is where the magic really starts to happen, because at just 11 years old, Allie and her dad started making trips to Grafton Street in Dublin, also known as the most famous busking spot in Ireland. For those who don't know, Grafton Street is where seriously talented street performers show off their skills. And only the best can get a crowd to stop and listen. So, what did Allie do? Of course she shut the whole place down. Every time she sang, massive crowds would gather. People were stunned by this tiny girl with a guitar and a voice that sounded like it belonged in a sold-out arena. And because we live in the age of the internet, videos of her performances started going viral. And this was the beginning of a long and eventful journey to fame. But let's be clear, her rise to fame wasn't just some overnight fairy tale. It was a mix of raw talent, hustle, struggles, and a lot of smart decisions. Allie's journey to fame. Despite the fact that her street performance videos had already gone viral multiple times, it was her dad's decision to open a YouTube channel that changed everything. The truth is that Allie Sherlock owes a lot of her career success to YouTube. Her dad started filming and uploading her performances to YouTube, and all of a sudden, her audience exploded. People couldn't get enough of this young girl with a voice so powerful and angelic. How did she do it? Well, her incredible voice, raw and super emotional covers of massive hits, a humble, down-to-earth vibe, and the charm of a young street performer who just loves music. It got people super hooked. And when we say hooked, we mean millions of subscribers and hundreds of millions of views on her channel. Her soulful covers of artists like Adele, Ed Sheeran, and Louis Capaldi were getting millions of views. And suddenly, she wasn't just a street performer anymore. She was a full-blown YouTube star. Here's the twist. Allie wasn't just like any other cover artist. Nope, she was something different. She brought something unique and special to every song she touched, and she always made it sound so original.
Trying to hide in another you, but your evil was coming through. These guys sitting on a wall.
And guess what? The music industry and the general public definitely noticed, leading to millions of subscribers and hundreds of millions of views. But it didn't end there. If you thought singing on the streets was a big deal, imagine getting a call from The Ellen DeGeneres Show. Everyone knows that when you land on The Ellen DeGeneres Show, you're definitely on the verge of something massive. In 2018, Ellen, who has introduced the world to talents like Grayson Chance and Charisse Pempenko, invited Allie to perform on her show. And of course, Allie absolutely nailed it. She performed Million Years Ago by Adele, and it was one of those performances that gave everyone goosebumps. After the show, her career literally skyrocketed. She once said in an interview, "When I came back from The Ellen Show, I got one of the biggest crowds I have ever gotten." That whole day was crazy. The most CD sales, most tips, and most selfies. It was all so crazy. That's not all. Allie did so great after the show that she started getting multiple contract offers. She once said, "Over the years, I've been offered loads of label deals and record deals, but never took them because I was always too young or it just wasn't the right deal." Let's be real. Most artists would have jumped at the chance to sign with various labels. But Allie? She wasn't about to give up control of her career just for a flashy contract. She and her dad knew the music industry could be brutal, and they weren't going to let anyone exploit her talent or force her into deals that didn't serve her best interests. However, Allie eventually met the man who finally convinced her to sign a deal, and his name is Ryan Tedder. If you don't know Ryan Tedder, he's the lead singer of One Republic. Yes, the same band behind hits like Counting Stars and Apologize. He's also one of the biggest songwriters and producers in the industry. And so, in 2018, she signed a 5-year contract with Patriot Records, the label owned by Ryan Tedder. So how exactly did he and Allie cross paths? Well, it turns out that Ryan had discovered her performances online, and he reached out to her dad and invited them to collaborate. And the rest is history. After years of turning down contracts, Allie and her team finally felt comfortable enough to sign a deal, but only with someone they trusted. And here's why this was a game changer. Unlike the major labels, Ryan respected Allie's independence. He believed in her as an artist, not just as a viral sensation. He had the connections to help her grow without controlling her every move. And let's be honest, if Ryan Tedder sees potential in you, you're pretty much destined for greatness. For the longest time, Allie was mostly known for her cover songs. But signing with Ryan Tedder's label opened the door for something even bigger. And that was her very own original music. She started releasing her own songs, and of course, they hit differently. The fans absolutely loved it. The great part about it was the fact that Allie was no longer just a YouTube busker. She was turning into a legitimate artist with her own sound. But let's not pretend it's been all smooth sailing. Because behind the viral videos, behind the breathtaking covers, behind that sweet, humble girl with the guitar, there was an extremely brutal music industry that is ruthless, cutthroat, and full of challenges. And guess what? Allie has had to fight through it all. Entertainment industry challenges? First things first, let's talk about the #1 struggle Allie faced. And it's keeping her independence in an industry that loves to control young artists. From the moment her YouTube videos went viral, record labels in the world wanted a piece of her. And let's be real, the second a label signs you, they practically own you. They decide what songs you sing, what image you have, and what music you release. And if you don't play by their rules, you're out. Allie and her dad knew this. They had seen too many young stars get trapped in bad contracts, forced into fake star personas, and eventually burn out or be forgotten. And they weren't about to let that happen. In an interview, Allie once said, "It's a really dangerous industry. It can be really toxic, and you need to find the right people who genuinely just want to help you and have your best interests in mind." So Allie and her dad did something almost no young artist does. They kept saying no to these labels in the industry. She turned down deals left and right, choosing to build her own brand on her own terms. Was this smart? Absolutely. But easy? Definitely not. Because sometimes, when you say no to the music industry's biggest players, they don't just walk away. They watch, they wait, and they test you. If you think internet fame is all fun and games, think again. Because with millions of fans come millions of opinions, and not all of them are kind. Allie has had to deal with rude comments and trolls since the very beginning. People criticized her voice, called her overrated, or said she was just another cover artist who would never make it big. And let's not even get started on the pressure, because when you go viral as a kid, everyone suddenly has an opinion about you. The world expects you to keep getting better and better, constantly outdoing yourself, and the second you have one bad performance, one shaky vocal, or one off day, the internet is ready to tear you down. And for a young girl, that kind of pressure is insane. Allie experienced pressure firsthand in February 2018 when she made her big appearance on ITV's This Morning. All eyes were on her as she joined the famous hosts Eamon Holmes and Ruth Langsford for a chat about her career, life, and, well, everything in between. But here's the thing, Eamon Holmes, ever the probing interviewer, asked a question that made viewers at home cringe, and social media go into full-on meltdown mode. It wasn't about her music. It wasn't about her rise to fame. No, Eamon went straight for the personal stuff, asking, "This is an amazing story. You literally found your voice after you lost your mom, didn't you? How helpful has this been to articulate your feelings and your love for your mom?" Allie's face said it all. She was clearly taken aback by this deeply personal question. You could almost hear her brain trying to process what had just been thrown at her. She stammered a bit, clearly uncomfortable. And then her dad, Mark Sherlock, stepped in to help guide the conversation back to safer territory, mentioning that Allie's music reminded her of her mother. But by then, the damage was done. The viewers at home were not having it. Social media blew up with a flurry of reactions, with many fans and followers slamming Eamon for asking such a sensitive question to a 12-year-old girl. People were upset, questioning why on earth someone would feel the need to bring up a tragic family loss on national television, especially when Allie was there to talk about her music and her rise to fame. It didn't sit well with anyone. And let's be honest, this is one of those moments that made everyone stop and think about how sensitive the media can be when dealing with young stars. The good thing is that Allie has never stopped doing what she loves. She's kept busking, kept singing, and kept proving the haters wrong. However, there's still one major industry challenge that every artist who blew up the way Allie did has to face. And it's getting people to take her seriously as an original artist. Because, let's be honest, millions of people knew her as the girl who sings on Grafton Street, the girl who covers Adele and Ed Sheeran songs. But when she started releasing her own music, believe it or not, some people weren't ready to accept the change. It's the classic struggle of every YouTube singer. Once people get used to seeing you as a cover artist, it's hard to break out of that box. But Allie? She's been fighting to prove herself every step of the way. She's been writing her own songs, working with Ryan Tedder, and showing the world that she's more than just a viral sensation. Little by little, the industry is starting to respect her as a real artist. But if you thought these are the only challenges Allie has had to deal with in the industry, well, you're wrong, because despite being only 19 years old, Allie has found herself in some controversies here and there. The Justin Bieber controversy. One of the most talked about incidents in Allie Sherlock's career is a moment that turned her from a sweet street performer to the center of a celebrity drama storm. Yes, we're talking about that wild Justin Bieber controversy. Before it all went down, Justin and Allie had a past. In a good way. She's performed some amazing covers of his songs, and he's definitely noticed her. In fact, he once shared an Instagram story of her rendition of his hit song, Intentions. And of course, Allie was super excited with the exposure. She thanked him and even called him an amazing person. However, this time around, it wasn't so cordial between them. Allie was just a teenager at the time, and she was minding her business on Instagram when she posted a seemingly innocent question. What's one thing you can't live without? But little did she know, this simple post would unleash a firestorm. Justin Bieber, the global pop sensation, saw her post and decided to leave a comment that would send the entire internet into a frenzy. Bieber wrote, "It hurts me that you would ignore or be silent regarding the racism that fills this globe. Fighting for Black lives isn't political. It's fighting for humanity." Social media went into an immediate frenzy. Was Justin Bieber calling out Allie Sherlock out of nowhere? But let's rewind for a second. This all went down around the height of the Black Lives Matter movement in the summer of 2020. As protests spread across the globe, celebrities and influencers were under intense pressure to publicly support the cause, especially after the tragic death of George Floyd. Allie, being the young, sensitive soul she is, had posted a message in support of the movement, but she quickly took it down. Why? Because of the backlash. She was just a 15-year-old girl starting her career, and suddenly, she had to deal with the weight of millions of eyes on her and criticism from every direction, so Allie deleted her post. But that didn't go down well, either, because that's when Justin decided to step in and call her out in front of his millions of followers. Here's the thing. Bieber's comment was probably well-intentioned. He was trying to hold a fellow public figure accountable for not using her platform to speak up on an important issue. But the way he went about it, well, maybe it was a little harsh, to say the least. Fans were immediately divided. Some people were on Justin's side, saying that influencers have a responsibility to speak out about social justice issues. Others were defending Allie, pointing out that she was just a kid, and shouldn't be expected to carry the weight of such a serious movement at her age. But Allie, like the pro she is, didn't engage in the drama. Instead, she responded gracefully, explaining that she had removed the post because of the negative feedback she received. She made it clear that she supported the cause, but the situation was complicated for someone so young in the public eye. The whole situation quickly became an entire drama, with people taking sides, arguing on Twitter and fans making TikToks about it. And just like that, Allie Sherlock was suddenly part of one of the biggest celebrity feuds of the year. In the end, the controversy fizzled out. Bieber didn't double down on his comments, and Allie went back to doing what she does best, making music and staying true to herself. But the whole thing was definitely a reminder of how tough it is to be a young star in today's world. You're constantly under the microscope, and even a small post can spiral into something huge. And now, looking back, Allie has definitely come out of the whole situation even stronger, more focused, more determined to speak her truth, and more ready to take on whatever comes her way. But that's not all that has come away. There's more. The tip card reader backlash. Once again, things got a little spicy for Allie Sherlock when she introduced a €3 tip card reader during her street performances. The move, which was meant to modernize how her fans could support her, quickly became the center of some serious online drama. How? So here's the deal. Allie innocently decided to upgrade her street performance experience. Instead of relying on cash, she brought in a tip card reader that allowed her fans to easily tip her and her band. Pretty cool, right? Well, everything was fine until a TikTok video popped up showing Allie and her band performing on Dublin's famous Grafton Street. The clip was pretty standard, just a group of musicians doing their thing, but as soon as it went viral, people started to notice that the tip card reader required a minimum of €3. Suddenly, the comments section was on fire, and not everyone was a fan. People were a little shocked at the €3 ask. It wasn't that much money in the grand scheme of things, but some felt it was a bit much for a street performance. The complaints started rolling in, with one person saying, €3 is a lot. Another person said that €1 would be more reasonable. Others joked that they'd feel embarrassed to be asked for tips at all, especially for something like a street performance. Naturally, Allie wasn't going to let that slide. She jumped right back into the conversation on TikTok, giving her side of the story. She made it super clear that the tips weren't even for her. Instead, she revealed that she gave the money directly to her band. She said, "Everyone is complaining that €3 is too much to ask for. I don't take any of the money. I give all the tips to the band. No one is being forced to tip." But here's the thing. While some people were still skeptical, others started to realize that supporting artists is more important than ever, especially when you consider the kind of hard work that goes into live performances. Some people came to her rescue, with one person commenting, "The arts won't survive if we can't pay artists. €3 really isn't a lot for a whole band." Another said, "Everyone is saying €3 is too much, but if you can't afford to tip €3, just keep walking." Allie wasn't just out there playing along for fun. She was trying to support her band and keep the music flowing. She made it clear that tipping was optional, not mandatory, and yet people still found ways to criticize her for it. What this whole situation really pointed out was the way street performers are trying to adjust to today's digital age. Let's face it, cash is becoming less and less common. And for someone like Allie, who's performing in high-traffic places like Grafton Street, using a card reader seems like the logical choice. In a world where you can't even buy a coffee without swiping your card, it's not surprising that musicians would want to offer their fans an easy way to show support. But of course, when you put yourself out there like that, people are bound to have opinions. It's a tricky balance between making sure you're not overcharging or putting people in an uncomfortable position while also ensuring that the people working hard with you are getting paid fairly. However, Despite the social media uproar, Allie kept her cool. She didn't get defensive, and she didn't let the critics tear her down. Instead, she did what any true artist would do. She kept performing. But while these controversies were super shocking, it turns out that Allie's personal life is just as fascinating. Allie Sherlock, personal life, relationships, and net worth. Allie Sherlock has had her own share of personal life drama. Despite being so young, people always want to know what's going on with her, especially when it comes to her relationship status. Here's the tea. Allie Sherlock has done an incredible job of keeping her personal life, especially her romantic relationships, totally private. This girl is focused on her music, and let's be real, when you're a star in the making, there's a lot of pressure to deal with. So maybe she just doesn't have the time for anything else. We rarely hear about her dating anyone, and right now, there's zero confirmation about her being in a relationship. But this hasn't stopped the fans from speculating because, let's face it, gossip will always be gossip. At this point, it's almost like Allie's giving us that mystery girl vibe, and maybe that's just her thing. She's young and just enjoying her career. So why complicate things with romance? Plus, we all know how relationships can get messy when you're in the public eye, so it makes sense that she's keeping that part of her life on the down low. But let's talk money, because, let's be honest, we all want to know how much Allie Sherlock is really making. Given her fame, it's no surprise that her net worth is seriously impressive. As of 2024, it's estimated that Allie is worth between $3 million and $5 million. And, let's be honest, this girl has earned every single penny of it. Most of her earnings come from her YouTube channel, which is blowing up with more than 6 million subscribers. She's got over 1 billion combined views on her videos. And every time her content gets played, she's making money from advertising revenue and partnerships. Add in the live performances, whether it's busking on the streets of Dublin or selling out venues like the Cork Opera House, and you can see why her bank account is looking pretty healthy. And let's not forget the record deal with Patriot Records, which has brought in even more cash from streaming platforms and sales. She's also been smart enough to sell merch, which is another little side hustle keeping the dollars rolling in. So, yeah, Allie's definitely doing more than just singing. She's building an empire, and she's doing it all while staying true to her roots. At the end of the day, Allie Sherlock is proving she's got it all, keeping her personal life private, staying focused on her career, and building a bright financial future. With her talent and determination, there's no doubt she's headed for even greater success. So, what do you think about Allie? Are you a fan? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the next one for more updates.